Good morning, Nigeria, and welcome to Daybreak on Trust TV, reaching you from the nation's capital in Abuja. I am Ayuba Ilya. Super excited to have you join us on the program this morning. Good morning, Stella.
Good morning, Ayuba. And Inakwana Otutoma Ekaro to all our viewers watching us this morning. My name is Stella Iyabi. Thank you for keeping it with us.
Yes. I didn't see my own tribe on the...
Just pick one of them. You are Nigeria.
Okay, I'll take it. I will take Inakwana.
Okay.
Okay, that's the closest to me. But yes, today being the 10th of May 2023, today we are expecting quite a lot. Yesterday we saw a judgment delivered finally by the Supreme Court on the Osun election that is long been litigated upon following the election in that state. Ademola Adeleke finally has been declared victorious. In that sense. So I would say congratulations to the people of Osun State. Yesterday we could see the jubilation.
Kind of jubilation that we saw. I guess congratulations are in order. And like I saw one analyst saying that now Adeleke will sit properly. That all this while he's not been sitting well, maybe half on the seat, and because the matter was in court and all of that. So.
That's the implication of having litigations after an election. It will take a while before you settle down, and because whatever you want to do
and everything, you're thinking, okay, can this be implemented before the judgment is heard, and what happens after? There's all of that. So it's actually now that he can start.
Yes, so you could say that the dancing senator, once again, have all the reasons to dance once again.
I was looking at videos yesterday. Maybe I'll actually see him dancing to this,
Well, congratulations to the governor. Well, let's take a look at the headlines that we have this morning. Maritime security. Navy intensifies intelligence patrol.
15 girls die as boat capsizes in Sokoto.
States to develop plan on reducing stock out of vaccines.
Now
Niaba.
Let's take a look at the details. The Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Awal Gambo, has ordered a 24-hour intelligence-driven patrol of the maritime environment to deny criminals the opportunity to carry out their illegality within the Gulf of Guinea. This, he said, was to deny foreign shipping companies from reintroducing war risk insurance premiums on vessels coming to the region. Vice Admiral Gambo stated that there were speculations that some Gulf of Guinea countries were being reconsidered to be tagged with the war risk premium due to recent piracy-related incidences. He said sustained intelligence-led round-the-clock patrols would therefore ensure that criminals trying to spoil the feat achieved by the NN since 2022, which led to the delisting of the Gulf of Guinea from International Maritime Bureau's piracy high-risk zone, were not allowed to breathe.
All right. Now, at least 15 girls have reportedly died in a boat accident at Dandeji village in Shagari local government area of Sokoto State. The girls were said to be on their way to a nearby bush to fetch firewood when their boat capsized on Tuesday morning. According to eyewitness accounts, more than 40 girls were on board when the incident happened, and 15 corpses have so far been recovered, while local divers are still searching for the other victims. The chairman of the Shagari local government, Aliyu Abubakar, who confirmed the incident, said that the bodies were being prepared for burial.
Now, stakeholders implementing the new incentives, All Babies Are Equal program, say states will soon develop a plan on how to reduce stock out of vaccines. This was part of the resolutions in a communique issued after the 5th biannual joint stakeholder meeting on conditional cash transfer for routine immunization. The meeting, coordinated by the Gombe State Primary Healthcare Development Agency, discussed strategies on reduction of child mortality through cost-effective and evidence-based health interventions. The communique added that in 2023, the group plans to work with state partners to expand the All Babies program to all the states in northern Nigeria and enroll 1.5 million infants throughout the year.
All right, now the Supreme Court on Tuesday dismissed an appeal by the APC governorship candidate in Osun election, Adeboyega Oyetola, for lack of merit. The Apex Court also upholds the appeal court judgment on the 2022 governorship election dispute, which validates victory of Governor Ademola Adeleke, just as it describes the lower tribunal judgment a nullity. Trust TV's Shafiu Suleiman reports.
In a unanimous judgment of the Apex Court read by Justice Emmanuel Agim, the five-man panel of justices resolved all the issues for determination bordering on non-compliance with electoral laws and lack of qualifications to contest the election in favor of the respondents. The Apex Court, which upheld earlier judgment by the Court of Appeal on the matter, also frowned at the lower tribunal's verdict, which upturned the victory of the incumbent governor for lack of fair hearing and non-recognition of the Supreme Court earlier judgment involving Adeleke's qualification, declaring the tribunal's entire proceeding a nullity.
Thank God for the justices of the Supreme Court who came and saw justice and did justice in the matter. Our first reaction is to say that we are very happy. We are very, very glad for the judgment. This is the Supreme Court, and that is the last court.
When we were at the tribunal at Oshogo, we made this point. We informed the tribunal and presented evidence that the petition was not what being presented. And the tribunal ignored justice.
The appellant, Daybreak of the APC, had challenged the victory of the PDP's Ademola Adeleke, alleging he did not score the majority of lawful votes cast during the election. He also accused INEC of violating provisions of the Electoral Act for not using the BBAS to accredit voters in 774 polling units of the state.
The Supreme Court has finally laid to rest this months of legal gymnastics between the former governor of Osun State, Daybreak, who happens to be the candidate of the All Progressives Congress, the APC, against the victory of the PDP governor, that is the incumbent governor, Ademola Adeleke. The Supreme Court has upheld, the decision by the Court of Appeal to dismiss the earlier appeal by the governor, and of course also frown at the ruling of the tribunal, which is said it's a nullity. With this, the legal gymnastics has finally come to an end. From the Supreme Court here in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, Shafiu Suleiman, Trust TV News.
Thank you, Shafiu Suleiman, for that report. Now, political leaders, economists, and policymakers have converged on Abuja, Nigeria's capital, to x-ray the nation's economy with a view to providing options that would help revamp the economy. Though considered the giants of Africa and one of the largest crude oil producers worldwide, Nigeria's over-dependence on oil has left the country at the mercy of global oil prices. Trust TV's Shamun Dabeng reports investments and leadership in repositioning the ailing economy. Let's take the report.
Once a major booster of the country's GDP, the oil sector contributed a mere 4.34% in Q4 of 2022. Nigeria's reliance on crude oil as its major export has now become a setback in the nation's quest for economic development, as the country grapples with challenges like the volatility of global crude oil prices, as well as oil bunkering in the Niger Delta, which has drastically reduced Nigeria's oil output, dropping from an estimated 2.4 million barrels per day to about 1.3 million barrels per day, with an estimated $700 billion revenue. However, leaders at the subnational level spoke on the importance of leadership and the role it plays in boosting the country's economy.
These episodes of surge and decline depends on the leadership at any point in time, the stock and content of human capital in the government, and then where the government gravitates in a spectrum of between what I call the two T's, transactional leadership, transformational leadership. Over the decades, you will find our leadership and performance and reforms gravitating between these two spectrums, one extremes of the extremes. Depending on where we are, we have either up or we go down.
Political leadership matters. If you don't have political will to take very difficult decisions that may be unpopular in the short term, but solves long-term problems that the rest of the people may not see, but you know it has to be done, then you are in good shape.
Nigerian leaders are concerned over the culture of blame game among the elites rather than focusing on pragmatic ways of addressing the pressing issues. However, the 18th Emir of Kano, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, has a different view.
I don't believe in covering up incompetence. I don't believe in being politically correct and not saying that something was not done properly. And if we want to really make progress in this country, we have to learn from the good and the bad. We have to see what we did right, but we also have to look at where we went wrong. If I have a new government on May 29 that tells me, oh, I'm going to continue paying this subsidy for the next 3 years, I'll phase over 3 years, I'm going to say you're not serious. I mean, I'm going to just close my eyes and get ready for the next election in 2027 because we're going to be here in 2027 talking about the same things.
As Nigeria looks to economic diversification and development, there is a need for massive private sector investments, fiscal consolidation, and a need to assess Nigeria's economic surges and emulate the highs. Chamun Dabeng, Trust TV News, Abuja.
All right. Now, 2 months after the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN directed commercial banks to issue the old Naira notes to Nigerians following the Supreme Court judgment in Gombe State, point-of-sale operators say that they are experiencing low patronage as customers have resorted to mobile banking and cash withdrawal in bank branches. Trust TV's Ibrahim Ismail reports.
This is one of the most patronized point-of-sale tents located along the Gombe-Bauchi Road in Gombe State capital. During the transition from the old to new Naira notes, Joy Nukan attended to more than 150 customers daily. But as the banknotes become more available, patronage has drastically reduced.
The what we do 10,000, maybe the 10,000 is 100 Naira or 200. They prefer to go to bank and withdraw there. You understand? They prefer to carry machine from here to bank and withdraw. You understand? For them to come and pay that charge to us, it's better for them to carry machine and waste their money to go and withdraw from the bank. Coming back slowly, so now it's going about after the cashless policy, like a lot of customers, but not anymore. It's coming low.
While POS operators complain of low patronage, some Nigerians speak on their preferred methods of transaction.
I was in the POS joint to collect money, and I've already been adapted to it due to that cashless policy. Nowadays, I don't feel like going to ATM or bank to go and collect my money because I know sometimes it's waste of time to transfer myself to bank or to ATM to join the queue. I used to feel it's just waste of time. For me to join those queues is rather for me to come to POS people to collect my money within shortage of time and move on with my daily activities.
I am afraid Nigerians will face another difficulties if the new notes are not available. I am advising the incoming president to remember the hardship faced by Nigerians and address the problem. On the flip side, others complain of scarcity of the new Naira notes, raising fears that if appropriate authorities fail to make the new banknotes available before the end of the year, Nigerians will be forced to further financial difficulties that is akin to or worse than when the old notes cease to be legal tender.
There is new Naira notes, but it's mixed with the old one actually. Yes, and the old Naira note is more than the new Naira note.
It could be recalled that the Supreme Court had ruled that the old Naira notes will continue to be legal tender until the 31st December 2023, but it is not clear if the incoming administration of the President-elect Bola Tinubu may have a different policy on the matter. Ibrahim Ismail, Trust TV News, Gombe.
Thank you, Ibrahim Ismail, for that report. The Smart Agricultural Farming Initiative is a technology-driven approach to farming that leverages the power of data analytics, artificial intelligence, and Internet of Things to optimize agricultural production and reduce the impact of climate change on farming activities. The launch of the initiative in Katsina State is expected to have a significant impact on the state. Let's take the report.
Surely, our pride no longer grows here. Nothing has changed in the farmlands. Same soil, but chili has stopped growing in our area. This is Abdulhamidu Mezabura describing how chili stops growing in his farmland in Ajiwa Dam, a one-time hub for chili in Katsina State. For 3.5 decades, this is his only business, but with continuous decline in soil fertility due to climate change, Mezabura is thinking of migrating for the first time in his life. I am one of the leading chili farmers here. Irrigation farming is the only thing we know, and we are facing a huge threat. Nothing brings us money like chili when you compare it to other produce. Increased cutting down of trees for domestic purposes and environmental degradation are some of the factors that expose their farmlands to soil erosion. Thousands of families relied on irrigation farming as their source of income in Ajiwa community. Reduction in yields means reduction in their income. We will be out of work. Our family size have increased. The income have reduced and inflation have increased. 25 kilometers away from Ajiwa town, the National Information Technology Development Agency, NIDDA, has launched an initiative aimed at promoting smart agricultural farming in Katsina State. The Smart Agricultural Farming Initiative will help farmers to use technology to improve their yields, reduce waste, and increase their income.
The concept of this smart agriculture is to integrate the technology in terms of precision to the agricultural climate change. Technology will help us in terms of pursuing some kind of innovation so that we reduce the impact of climate change and find a way so that we can have a better yield and improve varieties.
Powered using solar energy, smart farming will involve the use of drones, sensors, and artificial intelligence to monitor crops, soil moisture, and weather conditions.
We use these tanks to pump the water through all these hoses so that it will supply the water to any places where we plant. These hoses were designed to make sure the water come in drops.
This will enable farmers to make informed decisions about when to plant, irrigate, and harvest their crops.
So that we reduce the impact of climate change and find a way so that we can have a better yield and improve varieties. Even in the rainy season farming, we have different kind of varieties that will stand this shortage of water.
Mezabura wants improved seedlings that are climate change resilient to revive his farmland. Researchers like Bawali have started producing improved seedlings that fit Mezabura's demand. Jamil Mobai, reporting for Trust TV, Katsina.
All right, now time for us to take a quick breather. When we return, we'll take a look at the papers for today. Join us again.
That's great. It's good to see you.
situation where you find that they look at the same.
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
All right, welcome back. You're watching Daybreak on Trust TV. Time to take a look at the dailies on Daybreak. We'll begin with the Daily Trust newspaper this morning, where we have the lead story talk about revenue sharing formula. El-Rufai wants 80% for states, revert to 1963 constitution. The writer says Soludo advocates devolution of powers. Let's deploy technology to diversify economy, says Pantami, that's Minister of Communications. All of that on page 4. Above the lead story, Supreme Court affirms Adeleke as Osun governor. You'd find that on page 10. Sudan crisis, airlines sign agreement to airlift Nigerian Hajj pilgrims on page 3. Senate probes NDDC over 1.4 trillion naira illegal spending on page 3 as well. You also find below the lead story, 15 girls die in Sokoto boat mishap. You'd find that on page 6. Crude oil theft. FG demands 7 billion naira before vessel release on page 19. 7 feared dead after drinking tea at wedding in Kano. Quite a strange story and quite a sad story at the same time. You would find the details much later when we begin the conversation. How could you take tea and die? Well, we'll find the details of that. Now, the pictorial there basically shows you Nablus-occupied West Bank Palestinian protesters take cover amid clashes with Israeli forces during a raid in the old city. The Israeli army said its troops had entered Nablus. The Palestinian Red Crescent Society said its medics treated 145 injuries, the majority from tear gas inhalation, while a dozen people were shot with live fire. Below that, tribunal hears Obi's motion today. Articles on Tinubu's citizenship tomorrow. The writer says ex-Lagos governor seeks dismissal of APM's petition. All that on page 4. These are the stories on the cover page of Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
Now let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. It has a lead story that says, presidential poll, tribunal to consider PDP LP's live broadcast request. And the first writer, broadcasting proceedings live is of national importance. This is according to Atiku's legal team, and the Labour Party insists on this as well. And then the second writer, Justice Samani promises speedy treatment of demand. APC vows appropriate response. And beneath that, we have a pictorial of the governor of Osun State celebrating his win at the Supreme Court yesterday. And there's a caption there, final victory. Buhari Tinubu congratulate Adeleke. Supporters jubilate. Beneath that, we have 15 die in Sokoto boat accident, 25 missing. Lagos mishap. Lagos bishop raped me twice, female pastor. We also have federal government others private jets removal from Abuja airport. And above the masthead, Speaker, 5 aggrieved aspirants team up against Abbas. Otedola fumes over Transcorp deal. Elumelu keeps mum. We also have over $200 billion national assets lost to terrorism. This is according to the federal government. These are the major stories on the Punch newspaper for today.
All right, now let's take a look at the next paper. Now, the Nation newspaper is next. The lead story there, it says, National Assembly, Akpabio Abbas rally lawmakers for support. You also have petrol subsidy pushing Nigeria to bankruptcy, Sanusi warns. El-Rufai Buhari declined advice to end payment. Buhari, Tinubu congratulate Adeleke. You also have monetary policy alone can't reset economy, says CBN. Non-oil sector critical to recovery. These are the main stories on the Nation. this morning.
Over now to this day newspaper has a lead story that says, Adeleke survives as Supreme Court affirms his election. PDP Buhari Tinubu celebrate. And the first rider, President urges citizens to team up with governor to develop state. I will govern with God's fear, Adeleke promises, says verdict historic. It's evident Beavers has come to stay, Atiku declares. And above that, we have FG approves acquisition of Abuja Disco by Transcorp Consortium. We also have INEC, APC, Tinubu may oppose live broadcast of proceedings. And that's about it on, okay, just above the masthead, we have banks demand tax clearance certificate on FX transactions. Those are the major stories on this day for today.
All right, and on the Leadership newspaper, the lead story there, Leadership lead story, says, ahead of inauguration, 2,585 appointees, aides, brace for job loss. You also have 10th NAS, APC defense zoning, cites equity inclusion. You have Leadership newspaper as well, 2023 Hajj, Nakon, 4 Nigerian airlines sign airlift pact. Soludo, Erufai, Sanusi, others task Tinubu on restructuring. You also have May 29, private jet owners worried over fan relocation notice. You also would see other stories, Oshun governorship, Supreme Court dashes Oyetola's hope, 16 killed in Akwa Ibom cult clash. Tony Blair, 2 U.S. governors, others for governors-elect induction. These are the main stories on the Leadership front cover. All right, that's the last paper we are looking at. Now let's get some more perspectives. We have Ben Shemang, the former director of News Voice of Nigeria, with us here in the studio to talk about some of these stories. Thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak.
Thank you. My great pleasure.
Yeah. Well, quite interesting this morning. We are talking about the lead story now on the Daily Trust newspaper, talking about restructuring. The governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, calling for a revert to the 1963 constitution, wherein the states, got a chunk of the allocation, 80%. And, while all of this is happening, you would say, well, at one point in time, the Kaduna State governor was the chair of the APC restructuring committee, sort of, and they made their recommendations. Nothing happened. This is, 8 years, and a lot of people will say, well, do you really mean what you say?
Let me chuckle. It's good to see wisdom when you leave office. It's good to see wisdom and the mastery, the art of administration, when you have just a step out of the office. These things have been there. Now, they forgot those yearning and calling for this. At what point did they even, at the state level, the states, the superintendent, at what level did they give some arms of government their own rights? Talking of the local government finances, did El-Rufai also give the local government their money directly, without interference? Did El-Rufai also allow the state legislature to have its own independence financially, judiciary, financially? I still remember when APC was APC, the days of Oshimole. If you were entering through Edo State, you would see some bad roads with billboards. This is federal government road, even within Benin City. Therefore, you will not do it because it's a federal government. Federal government was PDP then. You know, if you went to Lagos that time, Minister of Works now was the governor, Fashola. Each time you saw a road construction going on, you see a billboard. Sorry for the inconveniences. This is where your tax is being spent. Two different things. This man believes, yes, he received tax from Lagosians, from Nigeria, but the roads are going on. Of course, there were inhibitions as to movements. You could see the courtesy. Sorry, this is where we are spending your money, so bear with us. But compare that with what Oshimole was having that time. This is a federal government road. You know, just a moment. So when we begin to say, give the federal government this allocation, the state this allocation, local government this allocation. Let's go back to 1963 when I was born. I asked this, what about the moral burden? Those who received this money, even as at today, what have they used these monies for?
Yes, Mr.
It's
Chairman,
not just
that was what I was
waking
going
up
to
say.
I was going to say that maybe it's not necessarily about the person who made the statement, not necessarily the messenger, but the message. A lot of Nigerians would say that at the moment, what are states doing with the allocation given to them? Now, when you now give them 80% and leave 20% to the federal government, in the story it added that, of course, the federal government will now do less. Most of the things that the federal government is doing now will now be handled by the states. But the question is, what is it doing with what it is receiving at the moment? So much so that if it is giving this 80%, we'll expect more.
Honestly, instead of having teen gods, demigods, I mean, those who are in charge, emperors in the states, I don't know which power is bigger than that of an emperor, when you now have 80% for the state. Now, if, like I said, question of conscience, whatever money comes to a family, I say, I don't trust my dad, give mom. No, I trust my sister more, give her. No, what about my brother? You're doing all of that, time is being wasted. I tell you, just like the Nigerian constitution, this one is faulty. No, it was crafted by the military. Did the military come from some space? There are Nigerians who also want to survive. We have a way of moving with the document to guide us. If there are some places where we feel they are now injurious, and that's why the law itself allows you, the operator, to tinker with it, change it when it is injurious. So when we now say the federal government is carrying too much burden, first of all, the states, they said he who goes to equity must go with clean hands. And when you point at one accusing finger, the rest are pointed back at you. And so, in Nigeria, you know it, people will suddenly start advising government or those in power when indeed they have left power. What did you do when you were there?
Okay,
very vital.
What will it take really to make this happen? Because we've seen this remain a promise for years. Several years, we keep talking about restructuring in Nigeria, true federalism. At some point it became a very heated argument in this country where some people say, well, restructuring, it depends on who is talking about restructuring. We now began to have different definitions of restructuring and the rest of them, and year in, year out, for each election cycle that comes, you find politicians putting that in their manifesto as promises that they and the same APC that we're talking about after 8 years. What will it take really? We've seen some of the bills, that borders on restructuring fail in the states, where it gets to the issue of securing 25% to third support from the states, of the country. They fail. Even the ones that you could say will benefit for instance, state assemblies and the rest of them, they fail. So what will it take really?
Honestly, it would take so much of, I think, waste of time. How many constitutions have we had? Little Constitution, Richardson Constitution, Macpherson Constitution. We've had all sorts of political, during the Abacha days, we had one. Babangida came, we had all sorts of, we are always, like they said, when you see problems in Nigeria, just go and find the solution in a conference hall and thereafter disperse. That's always the thing. I don't know. See, what we have today, if we simply bring in honesty to what we have, to the Constitution, it will still work.
You know, Mr. Chairman, what Ayuba was asking was the fact that this appears as if it's actually the way to go, whether we like it or not. At some point, the federal government will have to do less and let the states do more. So what's the best way to achieve it?
So has the states been doing its best now?
No, we do know that they are not. So what's the way forward now? And at some point, we have to think about that, right?
I said something here, our honesty. The document is not at fault. The implementers and the method in which they are implementing it. By the time, okay, this is El Rufai's opinion. Someone else comes to say, no, we've had, there's another constitution that we have to look at, the pre-independence constitution. It will be better for us because, yeah, this was how the regions voted, and this was how representation was done, and we had a less kind of some people are saying, let's go parliamentary. You go parliamentary, okay, you do away with this federal structure. The Council of Ministers will all be one in the assembly. From the assembly, they appoint you and all that stuff. For us to be wasting all this time, for God's sake, when we said, let's think out with this, devolution of power, we've seen all of that going to the state assemblies. What's the result? Give local governments autonomy. What's the result? I mean, it's always
saying there's
good.
No hope?
No, there is hope. The hope is just a change of mind and things will work. Remember, let's borrow Benin Republic. What was happening then? Nesfor Soglo was such a terrible, Matthew Kereku was such a terrible guy. And things started going so bad. And he said, okay, the pressure was so much from the Catholic conference. And he said, okay, what do we do? Call a conference. And they call a conference. What's the essence? Let's see. Are you the problem or the Beninois are the problem? So he said, let there be an election.
Okay.
You can contest. And he contested and lost. They said, you see, you are now the problem. And that was how Benin Republic became a better place. When you believe, knowledge must start from you, it must end from you. You are at the top giving instructions. Everybody must be yes sir. Some kind of, like Charlie Boy would say, okay, our mumu don't do.
All right. Well, let's look at the second leg of this same story on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper, where the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission is, kind of revealing to us, that some CEOs in government earn more than the president, and they are calling for a review of the salary or remuneration, scale of, the president, the governors and all that. It says that the president earns 1.2 million naira, and you have CEOs who are earning 5 million naira. Who would ever think, or who would ever believe that the whole president earns just 1.2 million naira as salary?
My brother, go and find out how much CEOs in Nimasa, how much they earn. Go and find out big guys in CBN, how much they receive. It is true. They earn more than the president.
But is this so much of a concern? Because no one is more powerful than the president in a country. So he can decide, to make those changes if really they are of big concern.
You see, it has to be in line with the Constitution.
And Mr. Sherman, when you say they earn more than the president, is it the what is it? The basic, or what exactly do you mean when you say?
See, everything you can ever think of, your basic salary. Now you put. See, today go and see what they call furniture allowance. The president does not change furniture, but these people.
But the security vote somewhere.
Security vote is for you and I. It's different.
Unaccounted for.
Well, it is for you and I. It's the truth. If there are some riots here and there, you also have to intervene in some issues.
You said security votes for, well, you and I, so to say, in your own words. Have you received the last time's
yeah, you see, security vote is not as if this is the money, therefore security, Stella take your own, Ayuba take yours, Ilya take yours, Daniel Manson take yours, Ben Shaman, this is yours. It is not so. How does it work? Sometimes when you see all these interventions on security issues here and there, that is where the money comes from. There are issues, even outbreak of diseases, some cholera and all that. This is security vote. There are instances where...
Mr. Sherman, I think security vote is the most fluid statement in this country.
That's why
because it's one thing
omnibus.
You cannot... Yes, you can't say, okay, this is what it was used for. It just, you know...
I mean, when you say you don't see attacks here and there, in Nigeria, the way Boko Haram was doing that way, it also tells you it has to do with security vote.
Okay, the money has been used to tackle it.
I mean,
okay, but
what else?
But Mr.
Okay.
Sherman,
what else? That's exactly what
Mr. Sherman, the Revenue Mobilization Commission is saying that the last time it had that review of salaries for public office holders was in 2008. This is more than 10 years, more than a decade after that happened. I would say about 15 years now. What will it take to review that salary for public servants? And is it that the public officials themselves are not bothered, you know, about how much they really earn as salaries? Are there other allowances, other benefits that they get that makes them not to consider it maybe as important? Because if really it is, like I earlier said, by now nobody would be talking about, you know, taking that long to review the salary of Mr. President if that's all that there is for him, you know, to take home. So perhaps there are other benefits, isn't it?
Yeah, you see, there's no human being that doesn't like pleasure. You avoid pains to seek pleasure. You avoid bad salaries. What are these pleasures? Can I be able to pay my bills? You know, there's no civil servant who doesn't want increase in salary. Some people will say, don't increase the salary, but let everything be available so that with my little money I can buy a bag of rice. My little money I can pay school fees. My little money I can buy a car, buy a house if I want. And the revenue mobilization, there is a provision, I'm not sure now, every 5 years or 10, no, it should be 5, you have to increase worker salaries. And talking of the minimum. And you realize that every time the federal government increases, the state will say the federal government cannot make laws for the states. Meanwhile, some states you go and see that they are paying far higher than federal government workers. I was seeing the deputy governor of Edo State, warning revenue generators. Say for a month, 18 local governments were only able to generate 3 million naira. 3 million. Meanwhile, if you go to some agencies in that same state, go and see how much some people are getting.
You know, Mr. Sherman, the last time the revenue mobilization talked about a review of this salaries, he talked about people in the cadre of the president and top government officials, and the NLC went up in arms. They said that even what the people in that cadre at this point were earning was higher than what the average civil servant was earning. You know, that came up.
See, I don't have an issue for a president to have what is due to him. But we have forgotten what these governors, I mean, the money governors control, they have direct control.
Are we coming back to the security votes?
Just a moment. The kind of money the governors control directly The president cannot do it in this country.
So at the end of the day, the review of the salary is of no consequence. But how will it help us in curbing the issue of corruption? Because, so for instance, you have someone who, legitimately doesn't want to put his hand into government coffers and, do some things. He just want to, take his salaries and just work and deliver for the people and the rest of them. In that sense, the person, the temptation is quite high, if there's any, if I may say that, because here you are earning a salary that is way, way below, right? Even some of your employees, so to say, because as a governor, if you have DGs or certain office holders earning much more than you, then it means that your employees are earning much more than you. So, do you think that reviewing it will help us curb issues of corruption and people going out of their way and putting their hands into where they are not meant to?
Yes, if you review, it will help in terms of fighting against corruption. Because here you are, you live in a competitive world, a capitalist society, whereby, some people, you don't really know what they do in their offices. But by the time you see their salaries, when you talk of some companies that cannot refine a spoon of petrol, yet go and see. You have a group managing director refining. You have group managing director crude oil. You have group managing director personnel. You have group managing. So what really are you refining?
All right,
you don't see it, and go and see how much they receive. Meanwhile, when you say teachers' salaries have been increased, workers, when you say workers, every messenger, every this been increased, it's then the market now goes aflame in terms of hyperinflation. Go and see prices of goods.
All right,
so
Mr. Sherman.
that has to be stopped, because truly a governor who finished a service as a civil servant, became a governor, left and became a minister, left and became a senator. All of these advantages are still there.
And he's receiving pensions sometimes. All right, Mr. Sherman.
All sorts of pensions.
All right, Mr. Sherman. There's also the story on the front page of the Daily Trust. 7 feared dead after drinking tea at a wedding in Kano. The story says that the tea was made with other substances, and that some youths came there, and that, as a matter of fact, some who tasted it and felt their brain could not handle it abandoned it, but some others went ahead to take it. It boils down to the issue of drug abuse in the country.
Sure, and we expect that if you're also not sure of what you are drinking, follow your conscience. Some tested and said no. Others felt no, I needed to go high. And now here we are. Instead of going high, they went high and became so low. And it says something concerning checks too. You see, when people hawk all manner of things here and there that people don't just understand, it shouldn't be. We also expect that not just NDLEA, we expect NAFDAC to start doing some deployments. All those people in terms of health delivery, they should check all of that.
In this case, is there anything that the NDLEA can do really? Because this is a wedding, right? And so the organizers of the wedding, the host and everybody feel that, okay, let's find a way, because we constantly see how the ingenuity of drug addicts, come to play. Sometimes they bake cake and it has some elements of Indian hem in it. Sometimes it's biscuits, all kinds of forms. And this time around we are seeing that it is in a tea, and they decided, let's put in certain leaves, local leaves, to make it an intoxicant and so forth. So when you look at some of these methods that is constantly being developed, just to make sure that
honestly, you see,
how do you help it?
Yes, how do we help it? There has to be some rates here and there. There has to be. Even the police, you involve them. We've spoken about security votes here. Truly, you engage some people formally and informally. These are people who can pick a phone call and say, this is happening in so place, and people carry a rate. I think it's
this
not
is
just
a wedding, Mr. Sherman.
Yes,
it's a wedding. Only invited guests are allowed.
At the point of having some substances being gathered somewhere, these people are already taken. They've already taken it. At that point, it is late, but not late as per investigation. Just a moment, Stella. These people have taken it and died. Can we get testimonies from those who took and survived?
Hospital,
can we yes, can we look at, can we see what they ingested? Can we do some analysis? Can we begin to trace at what point did they obtain this?
Mr. Sherman, there's a bigger problem.
Where is the source?
Mr. Sherman, there's a bigger problem. The problem of the fact that youths are engaging in this thing. So even if you say you raid this particular place, if there's no change in attitude, if there's no, there's a need for something different to actually get the youth to stop, because it appears as if even if you raid this market today, they'll have a way of finding it.
Yes, you see, you can always minimize it. I remember going to interview Danjuma Goje, and we stumbled on, he just said, please, don't bring that out, and I won't bring it out here. It was a kind of an intoxicant that still I was surprised that youth were engaged in those things. I said, please don't bring that out. And we obeyed. So some of these things, when you know, of course, people were deployed and there was some sensitization. When you see your children behaving this way, and when you see them in some groups you don't trust, I mean, this is where the police, if they can see some guys with rough hair, with computers, and you just say, no, these are Yahoo boys. When you see some people, I mean, the Constitution, yes, we say people should have freedom of movement. That does not mean you cannot stop and search some things. It should happen. And see one available thing, even though not related to this, but very vital. See those girls that died in Sokoto.
The boat mishap.
The boat mishap. What were they trying to do? Cross a river around Shagari local government to go do what? Fetch firewood. Fetch firewood for a country that is #1 in crude oil supply, Nigeria, that children who ordinarily ought to be in school, they were going to look for fuel, wood, firewood. At the level we are, when people inhale all sorts of smoke, and what are the consequences? I think that felling of trees, making a forest so, I mean, no longer thick, it shouldn't just be. And for this avoidable accident, very, very avoidable, I think that Sokoto State ought to be mourning. Kaduna State ought to be mourning. If you check how many trees are the felling of trees in Kaduna State, check, just take from Suleja up, going to Kaduna and see charcoal business. It's now a business. They are in lorries come to buy. Take from Kwai, I mean from Kefi going towards Kwai, see charcoal business. I mean, we no longer have forestry officers. The traditional institution is no longer being used to check forestry. I come from a village where, look, when my father was in charge, you could see, if you go fell a tree, it must be a dry old tree that must be used, not that you go cut fresh trees. Today, it's like nobody's in charge.
All right. Well, this is where we end it. Thank you so much, Ben Sherman, for your perspectives. We are indeed calling on the authorities to do the needful, specifically NIWA in this instance, the Nigerian Inland Waterways Authority. Well, I don't know if they have offices in those places, because this boat mishaps have happened over and over again, where you see people die in droves. Is really unacceptable, and we are calling on the authorities to do the needful. Also, for young people, devising means of, taking substances that are not really healthy, they are not really helpful to you. I mean, the stories we're reading today is not a good story at all. 7 people dying. It's sad. Well, that's that for the newspaper reviews today. We'll take a short break now, and then when we return, we'll take a look at the headlines again and also our discussion of the day. Join us again.
situation where you find that a look like the same.
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
All right, welcome back. It's Daybreak on Trust TV, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. It's top of the hour, halfway into the show already. For those who are just joining, we'll be taking a rundown of the headlines once again. And don't forget, the show ends at 10 a.m. and not 9 a.m. anymore. Now, the headlines for today: 15 girls die as boat capsizes in Sokoto.
Maritime security, Navy intensifies intelligence patrols.
States to develop plan on reducing stock out of vaccines.
Now let's take a look at the details. At least 16 girls have died in a boat accident at Dandeji village in Shagari local government area of Sokoto State. The girls were said to be on their way to a nearby bush to fetch firewood when their boat capsized on Tuesday morning. According to witness accounts, more than 40 girls were on board when the incident happened, and 15 corpses have so far been recovered, while local divers are still searching for the other victims. The chairman of Shagari local government area, Aliyu Abukar, who confirmed the incident, said the bodies were being prepared for burial.
All right. Now, the Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Awal Gambo, has ordered a 24-hour intelligence-driven patrols of the maritime environment to deny criminals the opportunity to carry out their illegality within the Gulf of Guinea. This, he said, was to deny foreign shipping companies from reintroducing war risk insurance premiums on vessels coming to the region. Vice Admiral Gambo stated that there were speculations that some Gulf of Guinea countries were being reconsidered to be tagged with the war risk premium due to the recent piracy-related incidences. He said sustained intelligence-led round-the-clock patrols would therefore ensure that criminals trying to spoil the feat achieved by the Nigerian Navy since 2022, which led to the delisting of the Gulf of Guinea from International Maritime Bureau's piracy high-risk zones, were not allowed a breather.
Stakeholders implementing the new incentives, All Babies Are Equal program, say states will soon develop a plan on how to reduce stockout of vaccines. This was part of the resolutions in a communique issued after the 5th biannual joint stakeholders meeting on conditional cash transfer for routine immunization. The meeting, coordinated by the Ngobin State Primary Healthcare Development Agency, discussed strategies on reduction of child mortality through cost-effective and evidence-based health interventions. The communique added that in 2023, the group plans to work with state partners to expand the All Babies program to all the states in northern Nigeria and enroll 1.5 million infants throughout the year.
All right. Now, the Supreme Court on Tuesday dismissed an appeal by the APC governorship candidate in Osun election, Daybreak Oyetola, for lack of merit. The Apex Court also upholds the appeal court judgment on the 2022 governorship election dispute, which violates victory of Governor Ademola Adeleke, just as it described the lower tribunal judgment as a nullity. Trust TV's Shafiul Sulema reports.
In a unanimous judgment of the Apex Court read by Justice Emmanuel Agim, the 5-man panel of justices resolved all the issues for determination bordering on non-compliance with electoral laws and lack of qualifications to contest the election in favor of the respondents. The Apex Court, which upheld earlier judgment by the Court of Appeal on the matter, also frowned at the lower tribunal's verdict, which upturned the victory of the incumbent governor for lack of fair hearing and non-recognition of the Supreme Court earlier judgment involving Adeleke's qualification, declaring the tribunal's entire proceeding a nullity.
Thank God for the justices of the Supreme Court who came and saw justice and did justice in the matter. Our first reaction is to say that we are very happy. We are very, very glad for the judgment. This is the Supreme Court, and that is the last court.
When we were at the tribunal at Oshobo, we made this point. We informed the tribunal and presented evidence that the petition was not what being presented. And the tribunal ignored justice.
The appellant, Daybreak Oyetola of the APC, had challenged the victory of the PDP's Ademola Adeleke, alleging he did not score the majority of lawful votes cast during the election. He also accused INEC of violating provisions of the Electoral Act for not using the BBAS to accredit voters in 774 polling units of the state.
The Supreme Court has finally laid to rest this months of legal gymnastics between the former governor of Osun State, Daybreak Oyetola, who happens to be the candidate of the All Progressives Congress, the APC, against the victory of the PDP governor, that is the incumbent governor, Ademola Adeleke. The Supreme Court has upheld, the decision by the Court of Appeal to dismiss the earlier appeal by the governor, and of course also frown at the ruling of the tribunal, which is said it's a nullity. With this, the legal gymnastics has finally come to an end. From the Supreme Court here in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, Shafiul Suleiman, Trust TV News.
All right. Now, political leaders, economists, and policymakers have converged on Abuja, Nigeria's capital, to x-ray the nation's economy with a view to providing options that will help revamp the economy. Though considered the giants of Africa and one of the largest crude oil producers worldwide, Nigeria's overdependence on oil has left the country at the mercy of global oil prices. Trust TV's Shamun Dambe completes the reports.
Once a major booster of the country's GDP, the oil sector contributed a mere 4.34% in Q4 of 2022. Nigeria's reliance on crude oil as its major export has now become a setback in the nation's quest for economic development, as the country grapples with challenges like the volatility of global crude oil prices, as well as oil bunkering in the Niger Delta, which has drastically reduced Nigeria's oil output, dropping from an estimated 2.4 million barrels per day to about 1.3 million barrels per day, with an estimated $700 billion revenue. However, leaders at the subnational level spoke on the importance of leadership and the role it plays in boosting the country's economy.
These episodes of surge and decline depends on the leadership at any point in time, the stock and content of human capital in the government, and then where the government gravitates in a spectrum of between what I call the two T's, transactional leadership, transformational leadership. Over the decades, you will find our leadership and performance and reforms gravitating between these two spectrums, one extremes of the extremes. Depending on where we are, we have either up or we go down.
Political leadership matters. If you don't have political will to take very difficult decisions that may be unpopular in the short term, but solves long-term problems that the rest of the people may not see, but you know it has to be done, then you are in good shape.
Nigerian leaders are concerned over the culture of blame game among the elites rather than focusing on pragmatic ways of addressing the pressing issues. However, the 18th Emir of Kano, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, has a different view.
I don't believe in covering up incompetence. I don't believe in being politically correct and not saying that something was not done properly. And if we want to really make progress in this country, we have to learn from the good and the bad. We have to see what we did right, but we also have to look at where we went wrong. If I have a new government on May 29 that tells me, oh, I'm going to continue paying this subsidy for the next 3 years, I'll phase over 3 years, I'm going to say you're not serious. I mean, I'm going to just close my eyes and get ready for the next election in 2027 because we're going to be here in 2027 talking about the same things.
As Nigeria looks to economic diversification and development, there is a need for massive private sector investments, fiscal consolidation, and a need to assess Nigeria's economic surges and emulate the highs. Chamun Dabeng, Trust TV News, Abuja.
All right, now 2 months after the Central Bank of Nigeria directed commercial banks to issue the old Naira notes to Nigerians following the Supreme Court judgment in Gombe State, point-of-sale operators say that they are experiencing low patronage as customers have resorted to mobile banking and cash withdrawal in bank branches. Trust TV's Ibrahim Ismail reports.
This is one of the most patronized point-of-sale tents located along the Gombe-Bauchi Road in Gombe State capital. During the transition from the old to new Naira notes, Joy Nukan attended to more than 150 customers daily. But as the banknotes become more available, patronage has drastically reduced.
They want to withdraw 10,000, maybe the 10,000 is 100 Naira or 200. They prefer to go to bank and withdraw there, you understand? They prefer to carry machine from here to bank and withdraw, you understand? For them to come and pay that charge to us, it's better for them to carry machine and waste their money to go and withdraw from the bank.
Coming back slowly, so now it's going about after the cashless policy, like a lot of customers, but not anymore, it's coming low.
While POS operators complain of low patronage, some Nigerians speak on their preferred methods of transaction.
I was in the POS joint to collect money, and I've already been adapted to it due to that cashless policy. Nowadays, I don't feel like going to ATM or bank to go and collect my money because I know sometimes it's waste of time to transport myself to bank or to ATM to join the queue. I used to feel it's just waste of time. For me to join those queues is rather for me to come to POS people to collect my money within shortage of time and move on with my daily activities.
I am afraid Nigerians will face another difficulties if the new notes are not available. I am advising the incoming president to remember the hardship faced by Nigerians and address the problem. On the flip side, others complain of scarcity of the new Naira notes, raising fears that if appropriate authorities fail to make the new banknotes available before the end of the year, Nigerians will be forced to further financial difficulties that is akin to or worse than when the old notes cease to be legal tender.
There is new Naira notes, but it mixed with the old one actually. Yes, and the old Naira note is more than the new Naira note.
It could be recalled that the Supreme Court had ruled that the old Naira notes will continue to be legal tender until the 31st December 2023, but it is not clear if the incoming administration of the President-elect Bola Tinubu may have a different policy on the matter. Ibrahim Ismail, Trust TV News, Gombe.
Thank you, Ibrahim Ismail, for that report. The Smart Agricultural Farming Initiative is a technology-driven approach to farming to optimize agricultural production and reduce the impact of climate change on farming activities. The launch of the initiative in Katsina State is expected to have a significant impact on the economy of the state. Let's take the report.
Chile, our pride, no longer grows here. Nothing has changed in the farmlands. Same soil, but chili has stopped growing in our area. This is Abdulhamidu Mezabura describing how chili stops growing in his farmland in Ajiwa Dam, a one-time hub for chili in Katsina State. For 3.5 decades, this is his only business, but with continuous decline in soil fertility due to climate change, Mezabura is thinking of migrating for the first time in his life. I am one of the leading chili farmers here. Irrigation farming is the only thing we know, and we are facing a huge threat. Nothing brings us money like chili when you compare it to other produce. Increased cutting down of trees for domestic purposes and environmental degradation are some of the factors that expose their farmlands to soil erosion. Thousands of families relied on irrigation farming as their source of income in Ajiwa community. Reduction in yields means reduction in their income. We will be out of work. Our family size have increased. The income have reduced and inflation have increased. 25 kilometers away from Ajiwa town, the National Information Technology Development Agency, NIDA, has launched an initiative aimed at promoting smart agricultural farming in Katsina State. The Smart Agricultural Farming Initiative will help farmers to use technology to improve their yields, reduce waste, and increase their income.
The concept of this smart agriculture is to integrate the technology in terms of precision to the agricultural climate change. Technology will help us in terms of pursuing some kind of innovation so that we reduce the impact of climate change and find a way so that we can have a better yield and improve varieties.
Powered using solar energy, smart farming will involve the use of drones, sensors, and artificial intelligence to monitor crops, soil moisture, and weather conditions.
We use these tanks to pump the water through all these hoses so that it will supply the water to any places where we plant. These hoses were designed to make sure the water comes in drops.
This will enable farmers to make informed decisions about when to plant, irrigate and harvest their crops.
That we reduce the impact of climate change and find a way so that we can have a better yield and improve varieties. Even in the rainy season farming, we have different kind of varieties that will stand this shortage of water.
Maizabura wants improved seedlings that are climate change resilient to revive his farmland. Researchers like Bawali have started producing improved seedlings that fit Maizabura's demand. Jamilu Mobai, reporting for Trust TV, Katsina.
All right, thank you, Jamilu Mabai, for that report. We'll take a short break now, and then when we return, we'll go straight into our discussion of the day. Join us again. Part of efforts to support Africa's goal of strengthening.
Now looking at the activity chart, as you can see right here, a total volume of 130.
A Boko Haram crisis that at that time was restricted to Yobe.
How secure are they? You can see security men with blood.
This is the road leading up to the...
Already, if you look at England squad, you are looking at EPL, you are looking at their names. You are not looking at...
Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Right, thank you for staying with us. You're watching Daybreak on Trust TV. Time to take a look at our discussion. We are looking at the leadership tussle in the National Assembly, not just the House of Representatives, but also at the Senate. Now, a great philosopher, Aristotle, described man as a political animal because man is by nature a social creature with the power of speech and moral reasoning. Taking a look at the desire for political power and the keen contest for leadership positions, Aristotle's thinking certainly finds great expression in today's world and also in Nigeria. And it is very evident here in the country now, even as the country gets set for the inauguration of a new president, as well as members of the 10th National Assembly. The clamor for leadership positions by members of the red and green chambers is one that has generated a lot of attention in recent times, and that is the focus of our discussion this morning. We have in the studio former member of the House of Representatives, Honorable Godfrey Gaya, and also we hope to have join us Balarabe Al-Qasim. We had earlier scheduled an interview with Sani Bala, who is also was a member of the APC in Kano, who is meant to join us on this discussion, but unfortunately we're unable to connect with him. Thank you so much for joining us in the studio, Honorable, for making our time to be on Daybreak.
It's my privilege.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, let's begin with the political climate generally in the National Assembly. This is almost like the tradition. Each time there's a new set of lawmakers, the jostling for who will be among the principal officers comes to the front burner, except that this time is coming with a lot of twists and a lot of considerations going by the outcome of the presidential election. You have an APC that won the election with a same-faith ticket. You have all this talk about issue of balancing, zoning of the seats in the National Assembly takes center stage. What do you make of the recent developments in the aftermath of the general elections?
It is expected. Like you rightly pointed out, there had been no assembly without its own issues. But the good thing is that even when they arise, certainly before the day of election, things get back to what they should be. We noticed this in the 6th Assembly, where the party insisted on bringing Ete. She was eventually sworn as a speaker. 6 months thereafter, it was the wish of the House to replace Ete over very flimsy allegation. And it happened. Next came Tambol. Tambol was not the choice of the party. The zoning was meant to go to the southwest. Eventually, Tambol picked it for the northwest. So the tradition has always been like that. Coming to the 9th Assembly too, was wanted to become speaker ahead of Baja B. Miller. But also, towards the end or towards the close of the election, the issue was amicably settled. Was he became the deputy speaker and Femi became the speaker. So in the assembly, it is always the tradition. Coming to the 10th Assembly in particular, of course, after the election of the president and the vice president, many issues came up. They need to balance the geopolitical zones. They need to carry everybody along. The need for inclusivity. They need to also carry the entire APC apparatus to a level where every Nigerian will be satisfied. Of course, the president, the vice are known. The unknown, number 3 and number 4. From day one, after the elections of the presidency, we knew that the Southwest had been taken care with having the president. The Northeast too, taken care with the vice president. So we needed the South-South, the Southeast, and also the North-Central, and again the Northwest to be taken care of. Looking at the first same-faith ticket, it was obvious that the seat of who becomes Senate President should either go to the South-South or Southeast. Because we know from that region, chances are that 9 out of 10 will be Christians, who naturally should occupy the number 3 position for the purpose of addressing the vast nature of Nigeria, the diversity we have here, and the fact, whether we like it or not, the creeping in of religion into our body politics, that it is now at the center stage that we cannot take away. The fact that you need religion to balance society political equation. So certainly it's the South-South or the Southeast for Senate President. That's the number 3 position. Northwest, North Central.
All right. At the moment, what the APC has proposed, the people it has nominated, it has taken care of the Northwest, the South-South, in the person of Obon Gospel Akpabio, yes. South-South, Senator Barrow, Northwest, and then we have Honorable Abbas Tajuddin, Northwest, and we also have Ben Kalu, from Abia State, Southeast. There are some people that are saying there's no North Central here. How does that,
Well, we have just about 4 positions of this nature that can be so considered. After the president, the vice, is the Senate president and the speaker. There are only 4. We have 6 geopolitical zones. And the good thing is that at the National Assembly, the leadership caucus or the leadership positions are 10 in number in both houses. So by the time you take care of the deputy speaker and the speaker, you still have the majority leader, the chief whip, and others down the line. And the ruling party normally is allocated 6 out of 10. The opposition will take 4. Now, if South-South has been taken care of and the North-Central, there is no problem. We still have other leadership positions in the 2 chambers to take care of the North-Central and the South-East, as the case may be. So, of course, everybody is looking at the best and the highest position. So agitation must naturally be concentrated on either the first or the second. But the other offices that constitute what they call the leadership, they're equally important. Without the other components, there's no speaker and deputy that can succeed.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about other dynamics and peculiarities of the 10th Assembly, especially in the House of Representatives, where you have now more political parties in the picture and in the opposition. But let's go to guest who is joining us virtually, Balarabe Al-Qasim, the editor's correspondent in the National Assembly, to give us a sense of what's happening, or I'll say the mood there. Balarabe, if you can hear me, give us a sense or an idea of the mood of the lawmakers since the decision of the APC to zone the principal offices in the elections.
Yes, actually, good morning. What is happening now is that the mood is at its highest. It is tense and things are going underground and in the open. It is tense in the sense that the people vying for the positions are determined and are fighting vigorously to get it. So we are witnessing a kind of a tug of war between the parties and within the parties in supporting the candidates of their choice. Though the APC has made its choice, but within the party, many have rejected the choice of APC. We have seen like 4 or 5 candidates rejecting Abbas and Kalu as the speaker candidate and the deputy. Nevertheless, there are also groups that are cross-carpeting, that involve members of both parties going for one or other candidate. So we don't know what will happen next, but all the candidates are saying there may be a resolution at the end, but I think there are some that will not give up easily.
One of the allegations, or one of the talks by the aggrieved members, is that they claim that Tajuddin Abbas is not very popular. As someone who's been covering the National Assembly, what's your take on that? And your last story from the National Assembly, which was last night, you said that the nominee, Tajuddin Abbas, said that he was going to start consulting and meeting with some of these aggrieved members. Can you give us, how is that going to go?
In terms of popularity, like they are saying, popularity at the National Assembly depends on what one looks at. Some people may look at you as popular if you have many bills and many motions, like Abbas Tajuddin has about 72 or so, and 21 bills have been signed into law. So if that is popularity, you can say Abbas Tajuddin is popular. But there are people that are vocal, more vocal than him among the candidates, which people looked at that he's not so outspoken, not so exposed, and that is what they are happy on. Each candidate has peculiarities. Maybe the parties have not explained why they choose Abbas. And those people are saying, why not them? So it all depends on how one looks at the candidates and what is their pedigree. And Abbas, to be honest, is somebody who is reserved, but people know him But among the lawmakers, you cannot compare him with the likes of Wasi and other candidates like Gagdi. So popularity matters at the National Assembly, but like I said, it depends on what one regard as popularity of the candidate. And yesterday, yes, he said they are reaching out.
Hello?
So by proxy, he may not be the person reaching out to other candidates. It may be from a group or from the party or his colleagues. They are really reaching out because some lawmakers supporting him are getting in touch with aggrieved parties to tell them to support us.
Can you hear me, Balarabe? Just hold your thoughts, please. We'll be back shortly.
Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
All right, thank you for staying with us. You're watching Daybreak on Trust TV. We apologize, we had to interject there. Balarabe Al-Qasim, if you are still there, we'll be connecting with you shortly to continue with your thoughts. But let's come back to the studio where we have Honorable Godfrey Gaya as well. Well, this time around, in the aftermath of the 2023 general elections, we saw a very colorful House of Representatives. What some people say, the rainbow House of Representatives this time around, the SDP, LP, the PDP. So this time around, you don't just have one dominant opposition parties. You have several opposition political parties, which means that the powers or the influence of the ruling party in the House of Representatives have been whittled down. How do you see that being a factor in determining the direction as to choosing the leadership there?
The beauty of any democracy is that you have a lot of opinions. We always say it is good for the minority to speak, but for the majority to have their way. So that is a normal expectation. Yes, there are newcomers now. Labour has about 35, the same, even YPP, NNPP, there are so many opposition. Next to the winning party, APC, is the PDP.
No, but sorry to button, but at the House of Reps now, what we have is that we have what they're calling minority caucuses.
Yes.
Made up of 182 persons. And the APC is 177, yes, which means that they have 5 persons higher than the ruling party.
Yes.
That is what it is. And these minority caucuses have set up a 10-man committee to shop for the speaker, deputy speaker, and all of that. Shouldn't the APC be worried about this?
The caucus you're talking about has a co-chairman in the person of Chinda from Rivers. The chairman is Kumo from Gombe. Then we have Madaki, NNPP from Kano as secretary. They are clear about their mission. When they saw that APC was tentative, they said if APC cannot come out with the blueprint on who becomes the leader, certainly they can do what they want to do as opposition. But the good thing is that the APC has come up with their own position. And the coalition is comfortable about that. The leader of the coalition was among those that accompanied Tajuddin Abbas and Ben Carlo to see the president-elect yesterday in Lagos. So the message is clear. We are not fighting APC or their choice, but we wanted APC to speak. APC has spoken. If you see those who are not happy with it, they are not from the opposition. There are those of them in APC who also want to have a chance to contest.
So there's a concern that those aggrieved persons within the APC could team up with the opposition to cause problem for the ruling party.
Everything is possible. But you see, it is very rare and difficult that when the party in power has given a direction, that you have people within the same party going against it. Don't forget that even those you call opposition members, there are either PDP or
Labour Party, NNPP.
Some of them became members in this present party now, and they came from somewhere. Labour started when? So if you go back to the background of most of these people calling themselves opposition for new parties, check their roots. They come from either APC or PDP. And like I said, if we go to the House, the decision of the House is hardly understood by those outside. So I am so comfortable that having taken this bold step by the APC, it is the right step in the right direction. It has reduced a lot of the confusion people are afraid because it was virtually becoming hijacked.
Okay. How much consideration do you think is given to the experience of the lawmakers in terms of picking the principal officers of the House, knowing the processes in the Parliament, understanding the rudiments, the House rules, and the rest of them? How much of consideration is given to all those in deciding, who becomes
now
or occupies what post?
Now, the two other positions after the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker naturally will be the majority leader, chief whip, and the likes. We have two zones that have not been touched. In fact, one zone, particularly the North Central, because at least the Southeast has the Deputy Speaker. Expected the most important, the number 3 within the system in the House of Reps, should go to the North Central. This will be done in conjunction with the leadership and the party, because the leadership or the Speaker and his deputy must consult with the party. The party too is not unaware of the little discomfort that the North Central is agitating. But sharing position on its own, you must take into consideration certain factors. The delivery of the vote that make it possible for the president to emerge is number 1. Before the number of members on the floor is number 2. Because if the Northwest has 92 members and the North Central has just about 47, you can look at where the number is tilting. Even from the people agitating to become Speaker, from the 10 of them, the Northwest has about 4 or 5. That tells you their numerical strength and their advantage. And let me assure you, I was the secretary of the Northwest Caucus for 8 years. When it comes to issues on this level, you will be surprised that the Northwest that are seen to be the ones saying no against Abbas will be the first to say it is Abbas or nobody. So we are moving there, and we'll have 1 full month before the inauguration of the Speaker. 30 days in politics is like eternity. A lot can happen between now and the 13th of June.
All right.
And I can assure you, we will come back and sing the same song.
All right, during a briefing a couple of days ago by the Deputy Speaker Wasi and a couple of others, he said the reason they are speaking out is because what the NWC and the President-elect have done is taking away the independence of the National Assembly, that they are supposed to be allowed to choose the persons that they want, that it shouldn't come from the NWC of the party.
The member of the Parliament comes from a platform. The platform is a political party. Every political party has what they call their working committee. They have the principal stakeholders. Then they have those elected now to take over in May and in June. So if the combination of this, the National Working Committee, the principal stakeholders, governors-elect, governors still on their seat, president-elect, and the president still on the seat, agree to say, okay, let us make our party more formidable by not allowing our sons and daughters to scramble for what is on the table. Let's save the situation. Let's save the polity by going for a consensus. And the party has announced that since we are going to have a consensus candidate. If the constitutional candidate has been announced now and is known now, it is simple. The rest is to call up the others who are still feeling they should have been allowed to go to the floor to try their luck. We'll call them and we'll discuss with them. Because in politics, dialogue is key. Negotiation is endless. When you continue to negotiate, you break defenses. Before you know it, like I said, 30 days is such a long time that most defenses will have been broken before then. It was okay for Watson to speak his mind. He felt the independence of the legislature should be vested purely on the floor. No, the floor is only a macro system within the system. The system at large is the Nigerian system. And in the Nigerian system, using our stakeholders and leaders have deemed it fit to reduce the stress and tension by picking a constitutional candidate. I think the House or the Senate should key in.
Okay. All right, let's go to Balarabe there, who is there standing by. Balarabe, if you can hear me, you give us an idea of the kind of competition really that is going on in the National Assembly. We understand that groups have emerged, you know, various caucuses, various groups, all, you know, trying to strategize, mobilizing and canvassing support for persons and all that. How many of such groups do we have? We know that there is this greater majority in the House of Representatives. Which other groupings do we have?
Yes, for now, there are two visible and very powerful groups, which consist of the Joint Task 10th Assembly, headed by Usman Bello Kumo, and the greater majority, which is largely PDP because it has more seats than other parties. And there are similar in a way and different in another way. The greater majority is all the opposition parties without the ruling APC, while the Joint Task 10th Assembly is the ruling party and all the other parties, which makes them different. They had a meeting yesterday, and before then they have made their position known that they will go with whatever the party decided, and they have reiterated that position yesterday. On the other hand, the greater majority said they will have candidates that they will vie for the position of the Speaker and the Deputy, which means they want to compete on the floor with the candidates of the APC. So what will happen is it all depends on what these groups or the other group, particularly the Joint Task, did on the candidates of the APC. Like the candidate of the APC yesterday said they are reaching out, which is true, because yesterday I had a cause to meet one of the lawmakers who confided in me that night, saying that he wasn't with the group before, but his governor called him that night and he has to attend the meeting, which means, like the honorable said, many barriers will be broken before the inauguration of the 10th Assembly, because there are serious moves to cajole members to support the choice of the party.
As it is now, for the Joint Task 10th National Assembly now, are they in sync with the decision of the APC?
Yes, that is their position, because they said whatever the party decide, they will go there. That is their position. And in yesterday's meeting, the Speaker, Femi Bajabiamila, and most of the Tinubu's frontline supporters, like the Speaker, John Faleki, and others, all attended the Joint Task 10th Assembly meeting yesterday night.
Balarabe, you said that before then barriers will be broken. The barriers that the APC want broken is such that only one nominee of the APC, there will be only one nominee for that position on that day. Do you think that could be achieved?
Yes, that could be achieved, because looking at, because it is known that the president-elect has an interest in who becomes the speaker. Unlike the former president, who is seen as more of a military man,
the current
president-elect may use his political pedigree and his connections to talk to people. And I think Now that he's cajoling the members, when he's eventually sworn in, his voice may be stronger than what it is now.
All right, well, let's come back to the studio, Honorable Godfrey. What do you foresee in terms of the relationship between the new crop of lawmakers and the incoming government, the government of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu? There's this concern about having a rubber stamp parliament if you have people from same party and the rest of them. What do you foresee?
The talk about being a rubber stamp has always been there, but it takes the speaker who knows his onion to assert his authority. And I believe the Abbas they're talking about is a fourth timer. He has seen it all. And when people say he is not outspoken, I smile. The man that has done 78 bills, to which the president has sent 21, cannot be seen to just be a non-recognized face in the floor. Humility can be a good virtue. To some people too, it's a negative. But having said this, I can assure you that with 224 coming for the first time, it will take a very dynamic leader to gel the house together, because the experience of legislature is lacking. You can have 244 out of 360 coming for the first time, who may not even be aware of the simple house rules and regulations. So the speaker must work extra hard, gel the house together before being able to partner the executive. It cannot be a one-man show, and that's why we're looking for the experience and for somebody who has what it takes. If this man has been a lecturer, you know Kaduna very well. He started the Department of Accountancy at Nuhu Mali. He opened the same Department of Accountancy at Council. He has been a lecturer, and you know, it's so easy for such people who have been teaching people how to do things.
Okay.
All right.
We are going to charge you for that.
because that's some advertisement for the nominee. Balarabe, are you still there? Okay, Balarabe, there's one caucus nobody is talking about, the women. I do know that a woman came out and said that she was vying for speakership of the House of Representatives. And I do know that amongst those coming in, you're going to have 14 women. So what are they saying?
The women are speaking, but their voice is so low. And unfortunately for them, their number has reduced this time. But I know of one of them vying for the speaker seat and others vying for deputy speaker. They may get the chance, but I doubt if the men will allow them occupy the seats of the deputy speaker. They may have some positions, but I doubt if they will allow them to be a deputy speaker or the speaker, so to say.
All right. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining Daybreak Show this morning and sharing your perspectives with us. We do appreciate it, and we look forward to having you again. Honorable Godfrey Gaya is a former member of the House of Representatives, and Balarabe Al-Qasim is the national correspondent of the Daily Trust newspaper in the National Assembly. Thank you so much for joining.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. That's our show for today. In case you've missed, you can always catch up across all our social media platforms and also on our YouTube live stream. I am Ayuba Ilya. Join us again tomorrow.
Thank you for welcoming us into your homes this morning. Do same tomorrow at the same time, 8 to 10. Do not forget. My name is Stella Yaji, and do have a very pleasant day.